Right, so get this. You guys send us this CIA analysis, and it's about something called the Gateway Experience.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be like a training system to alter consciousness.
Yeah, so this 1983 document, it's
Pretty dense.
a long one.
Hold on.
We're going to break it
We're
down.
going to break it all down for you.
The document claims that this gateway experience uses a whole bunch of techniques like deep meditation and biofeedback, and it says that it can sync up your brain waves.
Okay, so what does that even mean? Like,
Rewiring your brain to think differently.
yeah.
Well, the document makes the argument that by syncing the left and right hemispheres of your brain, you can access this state of like expanded awareness, and it calls that state Focus 12.
Focus 12.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds intense.
It does.
What's so special about it?
Well, it's described as a state where your sense of self extends beyond your physical body. So imagine perceiving information beyond your normal senses.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's pretty trippy.
Right.
But how does the syncing actually work?
Well, it involves sound frequencies, especially binaural beats, which can guide your brain waves into different patterns. This means that you can literally train your brain to relax more deeply or to focus better just by listening to certain sounds.
So it's like hacking your brain with sound.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild.
It is. And the document even gets into the concept of the universe as a holographic projection.
Oh, okay.
Suggesting that everything's interconnected and it contains information about the whole.
Okay, a holographic universe.
Yeah.
That's where I need a little help wrapping my head around things.
Think of it like this. If the universe is like this giant hologram, this gateway process might be a tool to decode that hologram and to give us access to information that's normally hidden.
So it's not just about meditation.
No.
It's about tapping into a hidden reality.
Yeah.
I could see why the CIA was interested in this.
Absolutely. I mean, they were exploring all sorts of unconventional ideas back then. The document also mentions that this process could allow people to have out-of-body experience.
Out-of-body experiences.
Oh.
Okay, now we're getting into some seriously far-out territory.
Yeah.
But what does that actually mean, according to the document? Are we talking about astral projection or something?
Yeah, the document describes it as a state where your consciousness can detach from your physical body and potentially even travel beyond the limits of time and space.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Traveling through time. Now, that's where I start to get a bit skeptical.
I mean, remember, this is all based on a theoretical framework presented in this document.
Okay.
So it's really pushing the boundaries of what we traditionally consider possible.
Right.
But it does tie this concept of time travel back to the holographic universe idea.
Okay.
And it suggests that all points in time might exist simultaneously within this hologram.
So like a cosmic DVD where you can just jump to any scene you want.
Kind of, yeah.
But how would someone actually travel through time in this way?
Well, the document dives into some pretty complex concepts like subatomic particles.
All right.
And the idea of clicking out of our normal perception of time.
Okay.
Imagine shifting your consciousness to a different point in the space-time continuum.
Clicking out. Okay, my head is officially spinning.
Yeah.
I'm going to need a little more explanation on that one.
So the document uses the analogy of a film projector.
Oh.
Each frame on the film strip represents a moment in time, and the projector, in this case our consciousness, can somehow click out of the normal sequence and jump to a different frame.
That's a pretty wild analogy.
Yeah.
So we're not talking about building a time machine. It's more about manipulating consciousness to access different points in time within this holographic reality.
Exactly. And it suggests that this might be possible due to the nature of subatomic particles, which can exist in multiple states simultaneously.
Subatomic particles existing in multiple states.
Yeah.
You're going to have to break that down for me.
Essentially, the document claims that these particles defy our normal understanding of cause and effect. They can exist in multiple states at once, potentially allowing for things like time travel that seem impossible from our everyday perspective.
Okay, I'm starting to see how the document connects these seemingly disparate ideas. But this is a lot to wrap my head around. We're talking about altering consciousness, holographic universes, time travel.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's like science fiction meeting ancient mysticism.
It definitely blends those elements.
Yeah.
And this is just scratching the surface.
Wow.
The document also explores potential applications for this gateway experience, claiming it could be used for things like remote viewing, energy healing, even influencing events with our thoughts.
Influencing events with our thoughts, you mean like mind control or something?
Well, Not quite mind control,
Yeah.
but the document does suggest that by mastering this gateway process and understanding the holographic nature of reality, we might be able to influence the world around us with our intentions.
That's a pretty bold claim.
It is.
I'm curious to hear more about how the document backs that up.
Yeah.
And what about these other applications, like remote viewing?
Right.
That sounds like something straight out of a spy movie.
It does, doesn't it? And you're right, the document does connect these ideas to real-world applications.
Okay.
It mentions a program called Project Stargate, which was a real CIA initiative that investigated psychic phenomena like remote viewing.
So this document isn't just some theoretical exercise.
Yep.
It's potentially connected to actual government research into psychic abilities. This is getting really interesting.
It is, and it raises a lot of questions about what the CIA was really exploring with this Gateway project.
Yeah.
Were they simply trying to understand these concepts, or were they looking for practical applications, maybe even ways to weaponize these abilities?
That's a thought-provoking question.
It is.
And I'm sure our listener is just as intrigued as we are to delve deeper into these mysteries.
Absolutely. There's still so much more to unpack in this document. It
Right.
gets into the specifics of how the gateway process supposedly works, the different stages involved, and even the potential risks and challenges.
Okay, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's take a step back and revisit the core concepts we've covered so far.
Okay.
We've got brainwave manipulation, holographic universes, time travel, psychic abilities.
It's a lot to digest, for sure.
It is.
But by breaking it down piece by piece, we can start to see how these seemingly disparate ideas are actually connected within the framework of this document.
And that's the beauty of a deep dive like this. We're not just skimming the surface.
Yeah.
We're taking the time to really understand the nuances, the connections, and the potential implications of these ideas.
And for our listener, this is just the beginning of our exploration.
Right.
We're going to dive even deeper into the specific techniques, the potential applications, and the ethical considerations of the gateway experience as we continue our journey through this fascinating document.
Okay, that's good.
So we've established that this document claims the gateway experience can alter consciousness, but how does it actually work?
Yeah, let's get into the specifics.
Okay.
Does the document give a step-by-step guide to this gateway thing?
It does. It outlines a series of focus levels,
Okay.
specific states of consciousness you supposedly achieve as you progress through the training. It's almost like leveling up in a video game.
Focus levels,
Yeah.
like different stages of awareness.
Yeah.
What happens at each level?
So the early levels are all about achieving deep relaxation and reducing stress.
Right.
Think of it like a mental boot camp for your mind.
Okay, so that's the entry point,
Right.
calming the mind.
Yeah.
What comes next?
Well, as you progress through the focus levels, the document claims things get pretty wild. It suggests you can start tapping into those expanded states of awareness we discussed earlier.
Wow.
You know, perceiving things beyond your normal senses, even having out-of-body experiences.
Hold on, so you're saying that by simply progressing through these mental exercises, you can actually have an out-of-body experience. That seems like a huge leap.
Yeah.
Does the document provide any evidence for this?
Well, it doesn't offer hard scientific proof in the traditional sense. It leans more on anecdotal accounts and theoretical explanations. For example, it references research by Dr. Robert Monroe, who studied altered states of consciousness and founded the Monroe Institute.
Wait, the Monroe Institute? That's a real place, right?
Yes,
I think I've even seen ads for their courses on things like astral projection and lucid dreaming.
exactly. And their work is heavily influenced by the concepts in this CIA document.
Wow.
They even use those hemi-sync tapes we talked about to help people achieve specific brainwave patterns.
Wow, so there's a direct link between this declassified document and a real-world organization exploring these concepts. It's like we're uncovering a hidden history of consciousness research.
It is fascinating, isn't it? And it suggests that these ideas weren't just theoretical musings.
Yeah.
The CIA was clearly investigating them for potential real-world applications.
Okay, so let's get back to those focus levels.
Okay.
What specifically happens as you move through them? Does the document describe what those out-of-body experiences actually feel like?
It does go into some detail about these subjective experiences reported at different focus levels. For example, at Focus 12, it describes a sense of your consciousness expanding beyond your physical body, like you're merging with a larger field of awareness.
So not just floating above your body, but more like a merging of consciousness with something bigger. That sounds pretty intense.
It does, and the document also mentions something called the absolute,
Okay.
which it describes as a state of pure consciousness beyond the limits of our physical universe.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That sounds like something straight out of a philosophy textbook.
It does.
But are we talking about something that's actually achievable, or is this more of a theoretical concept?
That's a great question. The document doesn't offer any guarantees, but it does present this as a potential outcome of mastering the gateway techniques. It suggests that by transcending our normal limitations of time and space, we might be able to tap into this realm of pure consciousness.
That's a pretty mind-blowing concept to consider. But let's be realistic here. Are we really talking about something that anyone can achieve? Or does it require special training? Or maybe even certain predispositions?
That's another important point, and the document does acknowledge that individual results may vary.
Okay.
It suggests that some people might be more naturally inclined to achieve these altered states,
Yeah.
but it also emphasizes the role of mental discipline and focused intention.
So it's not like a magic pill?
No.
You can't just listen to a few binaural beats and expect to instantly have an out-of-body experience.
Right.
It takes work and dedication.
Exactly. The document describes it as a journey of self-discovery, not a quick fix. It emphasizes the importance of consistent practice and a willingness to explore the unknown.
Okay, so we've established that the document claims these altered states are achievable through practice. But how do those states actually connect to the concept of a holographic universe?
That's where things get really interesting. The document suggests that by achieving these heightened states of awareness, we're essentially tuning in to the holographic nature of reality.
Okay.
Remember we talked about how a hologram contains information about the whole in every part?
Right, so if the universe is a hologram, the gateway process might be a way to access information encoded within that hologram.
Precisely. And the document goes even further, suggesting that we might not just be passive observers of this hologram.
Okay.
We might be able to interact with it, even influence it through our consciousness.
Wait, influence the hologram with our consciousness. Are we talking about manifestation here? Like the power of positive thinking?
It's a similar concept, but the document grounds it in a more scientific framework.
Yeah.
It suggests that our thoughts and intentions might have a direct impact on the fabric of reality, especially when we're operating from these higher states of awareness.
Okay, now that's a pretty radical idea. Does the document provide any examples or evidence to support that claim?
Well, it doesn't offer concrete proof in the traditional sense, but it does connect this concept to the idea of energy fields and how they might interact with consciousness.
Okay.
It even introduces the concept of energy bars.
Energy bars, like what you'd eat for a snack.
Not quite. Think of them more like concentrated bundles of energy that can be manipulated through focused consciousness.
So these energy bars are like building blocks of reality that we can potentially influence with our minds.
That's the basic idea. The document suggests that by understanding how to manipulate these energy bars, we could potentially do things like heal ourselves, influence events, and even communicate with other beings or dimensions.
Hold on, communicate with other beings. Are we talking about aliens or something?
Well, it doesn't explicitly mention aliens, but it does explore the possibility of using these advanced gateway techniques to connect with entities or consciousnesses that exist outside of our normal perception of reality.
Okay, this is where I have to admit I'm getting a little skeptical. It's one thing to talk about altered states and holographic universes,
Yeah.
but communicating with other dimensional beings, that seems like a pretty big leap.
It definitely pushes the boundaries of what's generally accepted, but remember, we're exploring a document that came out of the intelligence community.
That's true.
They were delving into all sorts of unconventional and potentially far-out ideas.
That's true, and maybe that's part of what makes this so fascinating. It challenges us to consider possibilities we might have dismissed before. But before we go too far down this rabbit hole of interdimensional beings, let's bring it back to something a little more grounded.
Okay.
Those practical applications mentioned earlier.
Right. The document does claim this gateway process could be used for things like remote viewing energy healing, even influencing events with our thoughts. It's all pretty heady stuff.
Yeah, let's unpack those a bit more. What exactly does the document say about remote viewing? That was something the CIA was actually investigating, right?
Remember that Project Stargate program we mentioned? The document seems to suggest that the gateway process could be used to develop and enhance those remote viewing abilities.
So it's like a training manual for psychic spies. That's straight out of a science fiction movie.
It does have a certain sci-fi appeal to it.
Yeah.
And it raises all sorts of questions about what the CIA was hoping to achieve with this research.
Right.
Were they trying to develop psychic soldiers, gather intelligence through paranormal means? It's fascinating to speculate.
Absolutely. And it
Yeah.
makes you wonder what other secrets might be buried in those classified files.
Indeed, but let's not forget about those other applications mentioned in the document.
Yeah.
Things like energy healing and influencing events with our thoughts. These are concepts that have been explored in many spiritual traditions, but the document attempts to approach them from a more scientific perspective.
Right. It's trying to bridge the gap between science and spirituality,
Yeah.
suggesting that there might be a scientific basis for things we've traditionally considered paranormal or mystical.
Exactly, and it all ties back to the idea of consciousness as a fundamental force in the universe, a force that might be even more powerful than we currently understand.
Okay, I'm starting to see a pattern here.
Hmm.
It seems like everything in this document circles back to the power of consciousness and its potential to interact with the fabric of reality.
You're picking up on the core theme here.
Yeah.
And that's what makes this document so thought-provoking, even if we don't necessarily buy into all of its claims.
Right.
It forces us to consider the nature of reality, the potential of our minds, and the possibility that there's much more to the universe than meets the eye.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that we're still exploring the vast unknown, and there might be entire realms of existence just waiting to be discovered both within ourselves and in the world around us.
Exactly. And even if some of the ideas in this document turn out to be speculative or even far-fetched,
Right.
the very act of exploring them, of questioning our assumptions and pushing the boundaries of our knowledge is a valuable endeavor.
It's a reminder that the pursuit of knowledge and understanding is a journey without a final destination.
Yeah.
There's always more to learn, more to discover, and more to wonder about.
Well said. And who knows, maybe by continuing to ask questions, to explore these unconventional ideas, we'll stumble upon something truly extraordinary, something that changes our understanding of ourselves and the universe we inhabit.
So last time we were talking about some of the potential applications for this gateway experience. Things like remote viewing energy healing, even influencing events with our thoughts.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in.
Yeah, it's a lot.
The document goes into even more detail about these applications and specifically how they relate to the holographic universe model.
Okay.
It suggests that by accessing deeper states of consciousness, we can actually interact with the fabric of reality itself.
Interact with reality.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty powerful. What does that actually look like, according to the document?
Well, it gets into some pretty complex explanations involving those energy bars that we mentioned earlier. You remember, those are those concentrated bundles of energy that supposedly make up the fabric of reality.
The building blocks of the universe, kind of.
Right, exactly.
So what's the connection between these energy bars and the gateway process?
The document suggests that by achieving certain focus levels, we can learn to manipulate these energy bars with our consciousness.
Okay.
It even uses the analogy of a sculptor shaping clay. Imagine using your mind to mold and shape the very energy that makes up reality.
That's a pretty wild concept. So it's like we become architects of our own reality.
That's one way to interpret it, yeah.
Wow.
The document suggests that by mastering these techniques, we could potentially do things like heal ourselves, influence events, even communicate with other beings or dimensions.
Okay, we talked about communicating with other beings earlier, and I have to admit, I'm still a bit skeptical about that one.
Yeah.
Does the document provide any more specifics on how that would even work?
It doesn't go into a ton of detail, but it does suggest that by tuning our consciousness to specific frequencies, we might be able to resonate with beings or entities that exist outside of our normal perception of reality.
So it's like tuning into a different radio station, but instead of music, we're picking up signals from other dimensions.
Exactly.
Okay.
The document also hints at the possibility of using this gateway process to access information from the past or even potential futures.
Okay.
It ties this back to the idea of the holographic universe, suggesting that all points in time might exist simultaneously within this hologram.
So time travel through consciousness manipulation.
Yeah, in a sense.
We're definitely in the realm of speculative science fiction here.
I mean, we are, but it's fascinating to consider the possibilities, even if they seem far-fetched.
Right.
And remember, this document was produced by the CIA, an organization that's always been interested in pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
That's true. But before we get too carried away with these mind-bending concepts, I think it's important to address the elephant in the room, the ethical implications of all this. If this gateway experience is as powerful as the document claims, wouldn't that raise some serious concerns?
Absolutely. The document itself doesn't go into a lot of detail about ethical considerations, but it's something we definitely need to think about. I mean, imagine the potential for misuse if someone with malicious intentions got a hold of this technology.
Yeah, you could have people trying to manipulate others, control events, or even rewrite history to suit their own agenda. It's a pretty scary thought.
It is, and it highlights the importance of approaching these concepts with caution and responsibility. I mean, if this technology is real, it needs to be handled with extreme care and used for the betterment of humanity, not for personal gain or control.
I completely agree. It's a bit like the classic dilemma with any powerful technology can be used for good or for evil.
Right.
It all depends on the intentions of those who wield it.
Well said, and it raises the question of who should have access to this knowledge and how it should be regulated. These are complex issues with no easy answers.
It's almost like opening Pandora's box. Once you unleash this kind of knowledge into the world, there's no telling what might happen.
That's a powerful metaphor, and it reminds us that we need to be thoughtful and responsible in our exploration of these concepts. We can't just blindly accept everything the document claims without considering the potential consequences.
So where does that leave us? We've explored this fascinating document, delved into its claims about altering consciousness, holographic universes, and even manipulating reality. What's the final takeaway for our listener?
Well, I think the key takeaway is that this document, whether you believe its claims or not, it really invites us to expand our understanding of what's possible. It challenges us to consider the potential of our own minds and the mysteries that still lie hidden within the universe.
It's a reminder that we're still exploring the vast unknown, and there might be entire realms of existence just waiting to be discovered, both within ourselves and in the world around us.
Exactly. And even if some of the ideas in this document turn out to be speculative or even far-fetched, the very act of exploring them, of questioning our assumptions and pushing the boundaries of our knowledge is a valuable endeavor.
It's a reminder that the pursuit of knowledge and understanding is a journey without a final destination.
Yeah.
There's always more to learn, more to discover, and more to wonder about.
Well said. And who knows, maybe by continuing to ask questions, to explore these unconventional ideas, we'll stumble upon something truly extraordinary, something that changes our understanding of ourselves and the universe we inhabit.
So to our listener, we leave you with this thought: is the Gateway experience a real phenomenon or a product of wishful thinking? Where does science end and speculation begin? We'll leave you to ponder those questions. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the mysteries of the mind and the cosmos. Until next time.